Okay, today we're going to look at the crop tool and why we use the crop tool. Now essentially cropping is the removal of part of your picture in order to improve the composition, change the framing, get rid of any distracting background items, to change the aspect ratio of your image. Now whenever you're taking photographs out there in the field, don't be lazy, try and get as many different compositions as you can. Explore your subject, change your viewpoint, change your vantage point, get as many different variations as you can. That's going to give you a lot more choice later on. Remember, Photoshop is there to make good pictures, great pictures. It's not there to take badly composed images and make them better. So try and get your framing, try and nail your framing, nail your composition first time in camera. It's going to save you more time later on. Now, the crop tool is located in the toolbar and it can be accessed by pressing C on your keyboard. Once you've done that, you click and you drag your selection. Now, the area within the box, this area which is nice and bright, this is the area which we keep. The area around the outside, which is black, is the area which we get rid of. It's the area which will disappear once we press enter. Okay, so we've cropped that image now and we've got a slightly different composition. Let's go back a step and do that again. I'm going to create my selection. I can move my selection wherever I want. I can change the width and the height. I can even rotate my selection to find a totally different frame in here, a totally different composition. Now the background area, which is totally black, I can make this semi-transparent, so I can have this slightly less opaque. I can bring this down. I think the default value is about 75%. I generally have it at 100%, but I mean that's your own preference. I could also change the color if I wanted to. I could change it to, well, any color I want as a background. I'll stick with black because it's neutral and it helps visualize things a little bit better. So essentially what I'm able to do is change the framing altogether. You'll also notice that we've got this rule of thirds guideline here. So if we are working on the rule of thirds principle in our composition, that really helps us frame our picture quite precisely. We can turn that off if we wish by clicking on this little tab and going to none, or we can add a more complex grid there if we wish. I'm going to stick with rule of thirds because I find that the most useful. And once I'm happy with my selection, actually let's go for something totally different. Let's go for a tall composition here. I'm going to have my rule of third line intersecting right through the middle of the marble. It's going to give me that composition that I'm looking for, and I'm going to press enter to confirm that. So that is the way we use the crop tool. Now there are some variations with that. Let's go back a step. We can also be very specific in the aspect ratio of the cropped area. Now the aspect ratio is quite simply the width, the height and the resolution of the image. Now for example, if I was to click the button front image, this tells me now what the original width of this picture is, and in this case it's 72 centimeters, the height is 54 centimeters, and the current resolution settings are 72 pixels per inch. Now if I create a selection now using my crop tool, I am unable to change the height and the width independently of each other. I can only change the physical size of the selection, and the height and the width are constrained. They're locked into place. That basically means that the height and the width are going to be the exact same aspect ratio as my original image, and also the resolution settings was 72 pixels per inch. So when I press enter this time, the image will increase to meet that aspect ratio of the height and the width and the resolution settings, and you'll notice the marble and the image became larger. So now the image size, the new cropped image is the exact same size and resolution setting as the original picture before it was cropped. The other way we did it previously, if I clear that so we've got no parameters in here, if I get that same composition and press enter, the image hasn't increased in size, instead it's actually decreased in size because we've just chopped out a little section of the image. Whereas having front image selected, we are selecting a new area, but we are making sure we are increasing, scaling up that image so it matches the original image aspect ratio. Now let's go back a step. Another way to crop an image is to use the Marquee selection tool. Now essentially all we're doing is we're dragging a box around the area we want to keep. However, we don't have the preview option, we don't have the darker outside area, we don't have the handles, and we don't see how the image is going to look before we crop it. We don't have the rule of thirds, but it's just another way of cropping. So once we've added our box around the area we want to keep, we simply go to image crop, and there we have our crop selection. We have to then press Command if you're on a Mac, or Control and D if you're on a PC, to get rid of that selection around the outside. Now I very rarely use that method of cropping. I tend to always just quickly press C on the keyboard for the shortcut, find my selection, adjust my selection, make sure I'm happy with it, enter, done. Okay, so that's the crop tool, and that's how we go about cropping an image. Try that, see how you get on.